Okay.
Hey everybody, it's Laurie at Cut and Paste Craft Studio. We've got about 1 more minute, so I'm going to wait till people connect, and then we will get started painting our fox canvas today. I'm just going to give a few people some time to log in. I don't want to get ahead of people.
You sound good.
Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. If I'm not loud enough for you, you can make a comment. And you can't see her, but Miss Melissa's behind the camera here, and she's keeping track of everything for me. My husband's home today too, but he promises not to disturb us. My dog has not made any promises like that, so if you hear a loud bang, that's because he's come and dropped a toy next to us and wants us to throw it.
5 people.
All right, we've got 5 people. Now, I know from the registrations that Sarah and Beatrice and Emily are with us today, but there's a total of 17, and I don't know all of your names, so if you want to tell us your names, you can type that in, and Melissa can tell me, and we can say hi to you. All right, we'll give it just a couple of more seconds, and then we'll get started introducing things. I hope everybody's got their plastic set out on their table like I do, because we don't want to get paint all over your parents' furniture, do we? I've got my brushes here. You may want some paper towels because you're going to be cleaning your brushes. So if mom can get you or dad can get you some paper towels, that'd be helpful. Let's see.
We've got Sylvia, Brooklyn, and Julia.
Oh, Sylvia, Brooklyn, and Julia, welcome.
We've got 10 total right now.
Okay, I'm so glad everybody's joining us.
Oh, Claire and Alex as well.
Claire and Alex, awesome. This is exciting. I've never done this before, guys, so you need to be a little bit patient with me because I've done Facebook Lives before, but I've never done a whole class. Now, I've taught these classes probably at least 20 times, so I know how to do them. I just have to remember that I'm talking to a camera and not to a room full of people. Let's see, we can kind of go ahead and get started. If your family has a blow dryer and some grown-up can run and get it and plug it in for you, that might be useful to have. There may be times when we've painted a little bit and it's still a little wet and you'd like to dry that off before you move on. Also, Melissa, tell me if I'm getting the brushes in the camera.
You're on a delay. Oh, over here, yes, you're good.
Okay. When you pull your brushes out, they may be very, very stiff on top. So feel the top of your brush. If it doesn't, if it isn't nice and floppy like this, go ahead and just rub it a little bit. That stiffness is something that comes with the brushes, but as soon as you rub it, that'll work out. And the same thing with your smaller 2 brushes. Just make sure they're good and opened up. You've also got a marker in your set, and we'll get those out a little bit later. Your marker, mine, already has a black tip on it, but yours is going to be white because it's a brand new one and hasn't been woken up yet. But a little later on, we will wake up our markers. Those are something we'll use at the very, very end of this.
We've got Emily, Tempe, and Beatrice all as well.
Right.
We have a total of 14 viewers
All
right now.
right, Emily, Tempe, and Beatrice. Awesome. I'm so glad you all have joined me. Now, this is my canvas all the way painted. You will not have an easel probably, but that's probably a good thing. You may see me struggling a little bit trying to paint like this with it up in the air. It's easier for you to have your canvas laying flat. You will also notice that the lines on your canvas are kind of light, and you want them to be light. I had to trace mine with a blue marker so that you could see them because they just weren't showing up on the camera. So a couple of tricks. When you're painting, I'm going to hold this down a little bit, but I hope you can see me. It's often very good to brace your hand either on the canvas or on the table. You have a lot more control if your hand is braced. If you're trying to paint up in the air like this, you're going to find it more difficult. If you've got your hand braced, it's a little more easy to do. You may see it better. You may see me resting my hand on here, but that's another good reason why we like to blow dry it.
We've got Addison and Caitlin as well.
Ooh, Addison and Caitlin, awesome. I'm excited today. All right, you're going to see different kinds of paint. Some of you have your paint in little pots like this. Some of you have all your paints in pots like this. The reason is these are very hard to find right now. I ran out and we haven't been able to get any more in yet. All these things being closed down makes it tougher. But all of you should have your main color, the color I'm calling A. It's this pretty blue that we're doing the background in. You can see that. Most of you should have this in a big pot like this. Now, when you open this up, be careful because there will be some paint in the lid. Flip that over and we can actually use the paint in the lid, so don't need to worry about that. And that's the color we're going to start with. This is pretty blue. It's called Coastal Waters and it's the most popular paint in the shop. Do we need to go in closer, Melissa?
No, it just keeps resizing.
Oh, okay.
I think it's okay.
So, when you're using a brush like this, don't cover the entire brush with paint. You only want to go, up about a third like that or a quarter. You don't need a whole ton of paint to start with. And you're going to use...
Oh, 1 second. Liz, if the color looks a little bit separated, just mix it with something like a toothpick or the back end of the paintbrush.
Oh, yeah, stir it up.
Sometimes your colors will get separated, but it's no big deal. Just mix it back together and it's all good.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, we use these bigger brushes for wide open spaces like this. So you can go ahead and start brushing on here. Now, while we're painting, if I'm ever using this big brush, and you feel like that's too big, I don't have enough control, I need to get a smaller brush, you switch to the smaller one whenever you need to, all right? So we're mostly going to be painting these wide open spaces. And you do not want to leave big clumps of paint. Like when I first put the paint on, there may be a big glob of it. I want to spread that out. Now see how I'm not going right up close to the fox yet? You don't need to go right up close to the fox yet. We're going to finish that up later.
This is A, correct?
Yes, color A. So just keep painting, spreading your paint out nice and smooth. If you see any brush strokes and you feel like, oh, I need to go back and fix those, we don't have to worry about that quite yet. We can go back and, at the end of the canvas painting is a good time to go back and fix that sort of thing. Now, the thing I like about these nice flat-edged brushes is I'm going to dip just a little bit. I want just a small amount of paint on my brush. And I want to show you a trick here. If you push this up till it's right on the line, see how it makes that nice flat line? And then pull away, you get that nice coverage, you get that nice straight line there, okay? See how I'm going right up to the edge and pulling away.
If they have numbers instead of letters, what number would it be?
It would probably be the first number. I know the two friends of Coutura, I handed out their paint before we got our system going, so it would be that light teal color would be the color they'd be using. So keep going ahead and just painting your background like this. And again, you can take your brush right up to the edge and pull it away. Right up to the edge and pull it away. You don't want to have a ton of paint on your brush when you do that. And look, I can change directions too. I can go right up to this line and pull it away. I can go right up to that line. Now, you may feel uncomfortable using a big brush in that corner. We'll get back to that later with the smaller brush. So we'll go right up to it and pull it away. Now, this area in here, there's a lot of detail. So I'm just going to do the biggest part of it and leave the rest of it alone for right now until we switch to our smaller brush. Now, for me, it's really makes it a lot easier if I turn my canvas when I'm working in a different area. Because if I have to paint over here like that, that's going to be tough for me. You feel free to turn your canvas whenever you need to. So like right now, I'm going to switch it this way. And I'm going to start painting right about here.
So if anyone's a little behind or off or anything, right now we're just painting the whole top part of the background. We're just going all around the fox without doing the grass over at the bottom. Over here, we're just doing all this.
Thank you, Melissa.
Mm-hmm. We had a few hopping in late or finding their colors. So.
Oh, yeah.
Update.
Oh, now I feel like I'm getting too far away from it. So again, I'm going to turn it again. And upside down works really well for me. And I'm going to do that thing again where I have just a little bit of paint. And I'm going right up to the edge and I'm pulling away. And if you ever feel like you get too much paint on your brush, just tap it off on the edge of your little container. Sorry we had to use different containers for everybody. But you know, that's what happens during times when we're all staying at home, and some of the businesses we order from have closed down for a little while just to keep their workers safe. In fact, the company that makes our paint has had to close down for a little bit. So I'm going to just keep painting all of this area here. And again, let me see if I can get that angle. I can go straight up to the edge and pull away. Whoops, that one didn't cover very well. Turn my brush over. I think there's more paint on the back side right now.
And if you ever go over the lines a little bit, don't worry too much, because a lot of our paints cover over other paints better. And when we do those lines, you can make things work. So don't worry if it's not perfect.
That's a very good point. Also, when we get done, we do have a black marker that you've got in your kit, and we're going to be using those to do the outlines. Now I'm at the point where I'm ready to switch to my smaller brush because I have gotten most of the big wide open spaces painted. I might want to look around and see, maybe there's a little spot there or a little spot there. But again, if you feel like, oh, I've got a lot of spots to go back and fix, don't bother with that now. There's plenty of time at the end where you can go back and go, I really think that space needs a little more paint. Or you can look and say, I've got a big, what do we call them in the shop? Clumpies. If you see a big clumpy of paint, you can do that at the end. Now, my brush is covered in paint. When my brush is covered in paint, I don't just set it down because that paint dries really fast in the brushes. So, where does it go? It goes in my bowl of water. So I'm going to swish it around a little bit, and then I'm just going to leave it there for right now. And I'm going to turn the handle of my brush kind of away from my elbow, or otherwise I'll be knocking it with my elbow the whole time that I paint. So now I am switching to my smaller brush because I feel like it will give me a lot more control. I like this brush for things because it's got that flat edge too, and I'm going to be able to get right up against things. But if you get to some tiny spots, like this little bit right here, you might want to switch to your little pointy brush, okay? So we're going to start with, I'm going to get some paint out of the lid because there's still plenty of paint in my lid. And I'm going to start going around my edges, and I'm going to do that nifty thing where I push it right up to the edge and then pull it away like that. And then I may go back and just smooth that out a little bit. All right. How's everybody doing? Right up to the edge. Okay, now I got a little over that line. That's okay. That we're going to fix that, of course, with the black markers when we're done. And I keep my hand kind of braced on here. Now you see I'll be getting blue paint on my hand. Kind of the way we live our life with blue paint on our hand. Melissa, am I blocking the
no, you're good.
With my head? Okay,
No,
I feel like I've got my face right in front of this canvas.
You're pretty good.
Okay. So I'm just going around. Oh, there's this little spot down here that needed a little more paint.
1 second.
Uh-huh.
It's fine on here. Oh, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
I think our internet just had a bit of a conniption.
Okay. Now you can also use a brush like this to make a nice straight line. You don't have to pull away. If you want to do this curve, you can. But again, never put a huge amount of paint on your brush. You don't want the paint to be all the way up here. You're just kind of out of control that way. See, I'm going around this line really carefully. And again, so that it's my fingers doing the moving, not my whole arm. Because my fingers are a lot easier to control. So I'm going nice and slowly. I think that's the key. If we rush through it, that's when we make some mistakes. But I think And you know, sometimes if you've used the paint on one side of the brush, you can flip your brush over and see if there's some paint on the other. Now, I feel like this little spot here is kind of hard to get into, so I'm going to use my tiny pointy brush there. And that, I feel like I've got more control that way, and I might do that over here too. Because again, it's a little pointy, a little difficult to get in. Now, it's okay if I go over these lines a little bit because we're going to be painting with other colors right up against it, and that's not going to be a problem. Now, I'm going to put that brush, my pointy brush, in the water because I'm very quickly going back to this medium-sized brush. Now, remember, you use the brush that you feel comfortable with. Also, I wanted to say this at the beginning, and I forgot to, and maybe as I talk, you guys can, if you need to catch up, you can. There's something that our governor, Andy Beshear, has been saying every day at 5 o'clock, and you may have heard your family say this. He keeps saying, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together. I think that's a great saying. I have another saying that I think is perfect for painting, and that is, it's the process, not the product. You came on here because you thought it would be fun to join an online canvas painting class. You thought it'd be fun for us all to paint together. That's the most important thing today, having fun painting together, which means what your fox looks like at the end is not the most important thing. It's the fun that we had together today. So remember that while you're painting, and don't be hard on yourself. This is, you should tell yourself, wow, look what I did the very first time I ever did a canvas painting. I think you need to be proud of the work you did, and you need to be happy with the fun you had. So I'm going back. We have these spots up here. My ears need a little more detailed brush around them. And you can see I've gotten a little bit over my line, but that's okay. These don't have to be perfect. All right. And I'm going to use that technique again where I go right up to my line and I pull away like that. I bet a lot of you are doing a lot of online classes these days. I know it's spring break for a lot of you all, but I bet some of you have been learning from your teachers online. Today I saw a parade of teachers in their cars, and all their students were standing out in their yards and waving at the teachers as they went by. And they had a fire truck and a police car. It was from Clays Mill Elementary. So I bet if some of you go to Clays Mill, you might have even been out there. All right, I am getting my detail bits done. So how's it going? Am I painting too fast? Are you all able to keep up?
I asked if we're going too fast or too slow a few minutes ago, and no one said anything yet.
Okay,
so we're gonna assume we're perfect.
Busy painting, and they don't have time to answer me. It's kind of funny painting a fox upside down, isn't it? But that's what I needed to do to get into that space. Okay, now these two little corners, I don't feel comfortable getting in there, so I'm going to put my medium brush into my water. I'm going to dry off that pointy brush that I had in there earlier. And remember, just a tiny bit of paint. The smaller the paint, the more control you have over it. So I've got that corner done. And I've got this done. Oops, almost. Now I'm going to turn it right side up and see what I think.
We've got two saying we're perfect, and one just said she's done with the background like we are.
Okay.
So I think we're doing well.
Okay, we're doing well. Now, if you all have brought a blow dryer and you want to dry your canvas, it doesn't take very long. And I'm just going to, I don't want to blow dry right in your ear, so I'm going to hold this under the table and give it a quick blow dry, and then I will come right back. Was that super loud? I hope it didn't annoy you too much. All right. Now, I'm going to put the cap back on my paint because I'm done with it. If you're still painting, you keep working. Don't throw your paint away. This is perfectly good acrylic paint, and you could paint on all kinds of things. You could make designs on an old clipboard. You could paint the front of a notebook. Who knows? Now, make sure you ask Mom and Dad if it's okay to paint whatever you've got. But if you've got like a flower pot you want to paint, these paints all work really well on them. Now, our next color that we're going to use...
We need just a little more time for one, so just explain before doing.
All right. That we're going to be opening up our paints. Now, these little pots are a little bit tough to open, but they're great for holding the paint. They keep it really wet, you know, so it isn't going to dry out. But you'll want to hold it down on the table with one hand and press it open with the other. And if you need Mom or Dad's help, this might be a good time to ask them. But I would only open one color at a time. Oh, there's my dog. He's come to see what we're doing.
Hi, Loki. So what color are they using next?
They're using color number 1. If you didn't, the 2 families who got theirs before we got our system going, it's called bluegrass green. It's the only bright green color you have. There's a blue color down here at the end, and the others are either purple or coral. I had a couple of friends who asked for coral colors, but it's this bright blue, bright green that's got a little bit of a bluish tint to it. So that'll be the color we're using. It's labeled, once we got our system going, they were all labeled 1. Now, if you're using these little pots, you may find that your biggest brush just doesn't fit in there, and I've got to swish him around a little bit.
Make sure if you're switching colors with a brush, you wash it off and then dry it.
Yes.
So you don't want a wet paintbrush with water on it anytime you go into these paints.
Right. Now, these little pots, you might find that your big brush doesn't go all the way down in them. That's okay. You can just get a little bit on there. And actually, you can use your smaller brush for this part, but we're going to be painting just like we did the rest of it. We're painting the bottom here. And yeah, it is hard to get that big brush down into that little pot. If you've got the bigger pots for this color, you've got it a little easier. But you know what? I think I'm going to switch to my littler brush. I'm just finding it harder to get enough paint on there. And we're just painting along just like we did the upper background. This is one of my favorite colors. We just added this, I think, about a year ago. And it's called Bluegrass Green. And when we first added it, boy, it was probably the most popular color in the shop for a while. I think it's good for grass. But it's also just a really bright, bold color. Now see, I'm doing my wide open spots. And yes, I'm getting paint on my easel, but that's okay. These easels get a lot of paint. Now, I'm going to need to turn it a little bit so that I can get into the spots. If you don't need to turn right now, then you don't worry about it. You don't have to keep up with me. You don't have to be doing the exact things I'm doing at the exact same time. I'm going to start doing go up to the line and pull away. And you can also use the edge of your brush to go along if you want to. It's a little harder to control that way, but I don't have anywhere to rest my hand. So you can see my lines aren't quite as smooth because since I'm working up on an easel, it's harder for me to rest my hand anywhere. I'm getting a few little clumps here, so I'm going to spread that out. But this is a really rich green color. You can tell it's covering with one coat. When we move on to the purple colors, you're going to find that some of them don't cover quite as well. And what we're going to do is do one coat and then switch to another color and switch to another color, and then we'll come back and fix it up. and add second coats to it. But that gives it time to dry. You always want to dry something before you put a second coat on. Otherwise, you're just mushing a bunch of wet paint all around. Now this line right up here really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. It could be curved a little bit. And later in the painting, we're going to add some funny little grass bits. This canvas design came about because we had a young lady who wanted to have her birthday party at Cut and Paste, and she told me her favorite game was something called Animal Jam. And I didn't know Animal Jam, but I went looking up, and I thought, wow, those are the coolest looking animals. So I couldn't copy one exactly because that would break copyright. But I wanted him to look sort of like an Animal Jam fox. And then I had to pick colors for him, and boy, these Animal Jam foxes can come in all sorts of different colors. But this poor young lady did not get to have her birthday party with us because of we had to shut down to customers coming in. So I'm glad we're able to offer some canvas painting for some of you who might be having birthdays, or it might be spring break and you'd be looking forward to having some spring break fun. Once you do get done with your green color, again, close cups in your container. These you definitely want to keep, because if you're doing all 4 canvases, we'll be using black in all of them and white in many of them. So we will keep our black and white cups throughout this whole month. All right, how are we doing? Are we ready to move on to color number 2? Now, if you are using the purples, the color we're using is the very darkest purple. Now, there were 2 people who wanted me to give them coral colors, so, you know, kind of pinky orangey colors. Your number 2 color, the very darkest color you have, it's called paprika, and it's sort of a burnt orange color. That's going to be your darkest color, and that's what you're going to use as for our first purple color. Can you see him? We're going to be doing here, and the 2 edges of the ears, and this area up here.
And around the eyes.
Oh, and around the eyes too. Thank you, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whichever paint you have, it's the darkest of the 4 main colors. So we've got 4 purples. As we got toward the end, we began to run out of this paint. And like I said, my paint makers have shut down for the safety of their employees. This is DecoArt, and they're right here in Kentucky, and they wanted to make sure they didn't feel like they could produce paint without keeping themselves safe and far enough away from each other. So a couple of you got a dark purple color that's going to be slightly different than this because we had to mix it up ourselves. We had to use a super dark paint with a little bit of white and a tiny bit of pink to bring it down. But whatever colors you have in here, it's going to be your darkest of the 4 fox colors. So either your dark orange or your dark purple. And let's start up here at the top with this ear. And again, you can now, this color is going to be a little streaky when you paint it. And when you get done, you're going to be thinking, oh, there's an awful lot of brush strokes there. That's okay. I recommend we paint 1 coat first, and then after we move on to the other colors, near the end, we'll come back and fix it up. So here again, I'm using that technique where I go right up to the line, and I pull away, and then maybe sometimes I just kind of brush it down a little bit. I like to, you know, when you get paint on your brush, if you stick it straight down, you get paint on both sides of that brush. Now, you may be feeling a little uncomfortable there at the top, getting a little too close to it. That's okay. It might be time pretty soon for you to switch to your smaller brush. And I'm going to turn it over, mine. You can turn yours around, whatever works for you. If you're right-handed, you may be turning it one way. If you're left-handed, you may be turning it the other. But I needed to be able to go in this other direction and go right up to the edge and pull away. That's my best way of making a nice smooth line. I don't have much paint on my brush, it's okay. It'll do quite a few of these before I have to stop. Now, I think I am at the point now where I need to get that teeny tiny spot. So back to the tiny pointy brush, just a little bit on the end. You don't want a huge clump. And we'll just go right into that edge and spread it down. And while we're at it, we might as well go and do the other little pointy bits right here. And this little pointy bit right up here. And remember, keep your wrist leaning on something, whatever it is you need to lean it on, so that you've got good control. Now I'm going to turn again because I see another little spot that needs my pointy brush, and I might as well get all of them while I'm at it. And I'm running out of paint, so I'll reload a little bit.
And if you ever feel frustrated because these little areas are hard to get at, just take your canvas, set it down, and move about 5 feet back, and you'll realize it's very hard to see tiny details that are obvious when you're right up against it.
Yes.
So just know it'll always look better when it's done, and don't worry if you have little bumps and things.
I'm going to make a mistake right now on purpose because I want to show you something. A lot of you have Q-tips in your bag. So look, I just went way out into that blue. Oops, that's not supposed to happen, is it? Got a little Q-tip here. Dip it just a little bit into your water and then squeeze it so it's nice and tight like this. And then just go right over that bit and clean it right up. Ha! Now, sometimes if you do that, if you rub too hard, you'll take a little of the blue paint off. But hey, that's okay. You can always go back when you're done and fix the blue paint. So, I'm going to go back to my little bit bigger brush. Now you use the brush that feels good to you. You work with the brush that works for you. If this big one feels like you're getting way too much paint in places you shouldn't, then don't use it. Use the smaller one if it gives you more control. You're the artist. All right. You know, this purple paint is covering better than when I was doing it the other day. I don't know what's different. But I'm still seeing some brush strokes, particularly on this piece right here. And so I'm going to come back later and do a second coat on that. Okay, I've got my ears done. You keep working on your ears if you still have to do those. And if you're ready, we're going to move on to this part of the tail. I love his big fluffy tail. Okay, I've got the wide open spots done. So now I've got to turn a little bit. You guys remember, you turn your canvas. You're going to know you've turned it the right way when it feels comfortable to you. When you think, oh, that's the way. So that like when you're coming here, you're pulling away toward yourself. Whereas, you know, if I had to come this way and pull away, that would be really uncomfortable. You're going to turn the canvas until your hand feels like it's in a comfortable place to be doing the painting. I hope that makes sense.
Got no questions so far.
Oh my goodness.
Nobody's saying to slow down, so unless you guys have any problems, let us know. Otherwise, we'll just assume we're all good.
And if I move on and you've got a little spot that you haven't finished and you're like, just wait until the end. You can always go back to it. You're going to know what you haven't completed and you're going to see the color. So if you feel like there's something that needs work and I'm moving on, just save it for the end because you guys can keep painting long after I hang up. So, all right, I'm going to come right up in here, get into these little spots. I'm not going to go all the way into that corner yet because I think I need my tiny brush for it. I'm going to stop here a second and have a sip of water, guys. All right. I think I need to turn again. Yeah, I think I need to turn this way. I kind of have to get to the point where it feels comfortable coming up against that. Like right there. Okay, I have done as much as I can do for that spot right there, and it's time for me to switch to the tiny brush. Using the right tools always makes it easier to work. If you're using a giant brush to fill in a tiny space, it can be really frustrating. I think probably some of you have been in the shop and maybe you pick something out that has words cut out of it. Maybe your moms have done a monogram or something like that. And if you try to paint those little tiny spaces with a big brush, you probably got frustrated. So it's always good to switch to the right tool. Oh my goodness, we've been painting for 35 minutes already. This has gone, it has seemed like it has gone really fast to me. All right, so I've got my little tail all painted up there. I think he's doing well.
Lauren popped in to say that she loves this. You're the new Bob Ross.
Oh, is this Lauren who used to work for us?
Yes.
Oh, Miss Lauren painted some of our very first canvases before she left us to go on and get a big fancy job. So, but I'm excited that she's happy with what we're doing. All right. Now, the next thing we have to do are these bits around the eyes. And I think most of this we're going to have to do with our small brush. But I think we can start a little of it with our big brush. You know, probably if you were really Bob Ross, you'd have about 10 different brushes to use here because you'd want one for every particular size. All right, I think I'm getting to where I need to go with my smaller brush there. So I'm going to leave off, go over here and do my little right up to the line and pull away. Right now he looks like he has bad eyeshadow on, doesn't he? Not perfectly blended eyeshadow.
The beauty gurus would not approve.
No, they would not.
But it's a work in progress.
It is. So, now I'm going to switch back to my little brush because I don't feel comfortable getting in those tiny spots with my bigger brush. Now I got a little on that tiny brush, so I'm just going to keep spreading it out. I'm not going to go get more paint. I'm just going to spread out what I already have. Now, are we sure I'm not blocking this?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay, because I feel like I've stuck my face right in the front of this.
No, you're totally fine.
Okay, good, good. All right.
To this side so it works.
Can you hear those little tick-tick noises in the background? That is the dog. His name is Loki, and he is just really not sure what's going on. All right, I need to turn again, guys, so pardon me while I turn. You turn whatever direction you need to go. Oh, now I can hear him crunching in the corner. He's eating his kibbles. I have always thought it would be fun to have a fox as a pet. But I know that foxes are wild animals and they do not make good pets. But they're always so pretty, and every once in a while we see one in our neighborhood. Oops! Okay. I did a little bit there. Now, when you, if you get paint on an area that's not already been painted, you won't be able to get all of it off. But that's okay. We got most of it off. And it'll be covered up by the next color of paint that we use. So should I slow down here a let people catch up?
Let's see.
I'm going to go ahead and close this paint color and open the next one, which will be paint color number 3.
I asked them to like a comment if they're ready to move on. So we'll wait a little bit and see if we're all good.
Okay. I think he's looking pretty good. He looks a little bit like a bandit, doesn't he? Like maybe he's looking a little raccoonish right now with those eyes.
All right. We need a few more minutes.
Okay.
For a few people.
We can just hang out a little bit.
Yeah.
What is the dog doing?
Oh, he's trying to lick something. Don't do that, okay? No.
I'm sure if you guys have pets at home, they're very excited to have you guys around more often.
We always
Ours
give,
is.
We always give our dog peanut butter. Yes, peanut butter. I know you like peanut butter. We give him peanut butter when we leave. We put it in a toy called a Kong, and so when he gets his peanut butter, we call it peanut butter bye-byes. And he hasn't had peanut butter bye-byes in about 2 weeks now because somebody's always here. Miss Melissa doesn't normally live here. She's usually away at college. But of course her college shut down like all the rest, and she's doing all her homework from our rec room. And
it's much easier to work with a dog. Sometimes he likes to interrupt my classes, but that's okay. Most people don't mind.
all right, are we about ready?
Let's see. I think so.
Okay, now I'm going to switch to this, my middle-sized brush, and we're moving on to color 3. So it's the next lightest purple one. Not the super dark, not one of the 2 super light ones, but it's kind of that middle one. And mine has separated just a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to stir it around a little bit with my brush, and then I'm going to scrape that brush off because I don't want to get way too much paint on it. And let me see. Apparently the only thing we're doing with this color is here and here. Okay? So you're going to take your paint. Now this is the one that I think is the brush strokiest. Is that a term?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's the one that shows the brush strokes the most. And so I am definitely going to have to go back afterwards and add a second coat to this color. Because you can really see how that leaves, you can see where your brush has gone. So, but we'll keep doing that thing where we go right up to the edge. Now, if you need your pointy brush for that corner, you use your pointy brush, okay? I was able to do it without it, but if you feel more comfortable using it, then you do that. And remember, you can always go back over spots if you feel like, you know, you didn't quite get it. I'm going to turn again. I hope I'm not making you dizzy.
What number is that? 3?
This is number 3. Paint color number 3. We started with our darkest purple, and we're going to go down to the lighter colors of purple. This one is actually called Iris.
Will you hold up the purples for a second again?
Sure.
So there's 4 purples and we're just moving left to right, so we should be on the second one. It's okay if your color isn't exact. Like we said, we've had a few problems, and also the camera may make colors look different on screen or on the on your laptop or whatever. So don't worry, just go with the second darkest purple you have. Or orange coral if you're using those.
Yes, you'll be using a color called shrimp for your second color if you picked the coral colors. And because I'm using 2 purples, you know, as I get right up to it, if I go over the line a little bit, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't show. Plus, we're going to go back with our black marker at the end. But again, I feel like I'm very brush strokey here on these colors. So I'm going to wait until the end and go back over them again. Let me turn this way. And I think, yeah, I think the insides of his ears are the only place where we are using that color.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm going to wash up my brush. I'm going to close my paint number 3 for now and wait and make sure everybody feels like they've caught up. And really, we've come quite a ways. We only have 2 more of the colors for the body of the fox, and then we've got, we'll do the eyes, and then we're going to add a little bit of grass to the bottom, but that's really quick too. So I know it feels like we've been painting for 45 minutes, and we have. And the next color we're going to use, this one is called Lilac Meadow. So of your 4 purpley colors, this is the most pink of the purpley colors. I'll show you there are 2 light colors that we're using. And if yours are marked the same way mine are, then this is color 4. And you see how that's more, it's purple, but it's more of a pinky purple. So these are the next 2 colors you're going to be working with. This is the lilac, which is kind of pinky, and this is wisteria, which is like a paler purple. So the next color we're going to be using is the one that I feel is more pinky. Now, wisteria is another one of those colors where we've completely run out and we can't get any more. So I made some wisteria. So I think the last couple of people who got their colors have the homemade wisteria, but it's very, very close to this. It's the pinkiest of purples. It's the one that's marked number 4. And I'll show you the places. Again, I think maybe it's helpful if I mark those with
I think
just
that'd
a
be good.
dab
Yes.
of paint. So the bottom of his tail, right there. This part of his body. And this part of his face. Now, as we're doing his face, do you see this little line here? That separates his face. So this part, and this part, and this part are all the pinky color. But this part down here and this part down here are going to be a different.
And there's the little bit of his body.
Oh, yes.
There's this tiny little corner that is the other color as well.
Yeah, we'll have to do that with our tiny one. So I'm going to start on the fluffy part of his tail and just start spreading out. Now, I like working with this medium-sized brush right here because I feel like it's not a big wide open space. And again, I'm going straight up to the edge and I'm pulling down. I wonder, how old are some of my friends? If your mom or dad are able to type it in, I'd love to know how old people are. I know we've got some who are 9 and 10. Okay, now I got the wide open space there, so now I'm going to start doing the thing where I go up to the edge and pull away. And to do that, I needed to turn again. So again, you guys turn when you need to turn. And paint as slowly as you need. I do not want to rush you through this. I know some of you have done canvas painting before with me. I know Beatrice has.
We've got 2 8-year-olds, a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old. We're kind of all over a little bit.
Yes, we are. All
We've
the way
got
down
lots
to
of
5.
pairs, which is great. It's fun that people are
Yeah.
doing this with their siblings or friends or whoever you're quarantined with. Ooh, Sylvia's going to be 8 on Monday, so almost happy birthday.
Sylvia. All right, now I'm going to have to turn again because I want to do my right up to the edge and pull away thing. So, and you may not be able to see it, but I am bracing my wrist up against my canvas.
And we've got 5 and 7. Ooh, we have 10 and 15, so we have some older friends as well.
Do we have
That's
a
great.
15-year-old?
I love
Awesome.
painting, so
I would say that person could probably teach me a thing or two. Huh?
all right.
I'm willing to bet the 15-year-old joined because of the next canvas we're doing, which is that amazing turtle that Henry designed for me. Now, I'm going to leave this here because I think I need my tiny brush for that, but I don't want to wash the brush and switch and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do some of these other spaces where I can use my nice medium flat brush to paint. And then I'll come back at the end with my little pointy brush.
Oh, this is great. They're creative. One is in Lexington, and then there's a cousin in Arizona via FaceTime joining us. So that's fun.
Wow!
That's exciting. We're getting creative.
Exciting. I didn't realize we had friends all the way from Arizona. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited.
Ah, the 15-year-old is in Arizona. She's an artist, so.
Oh, wow.
And she really likes foxes, so she wanted to join in.
Oh, I'm really glad. Okay, I'm getting too close here. I was trying to do that with my big brush, and I was starting to go over the lines. So I'm going to stop there and move on. Look, his face looks like he got into the paint and made a mess, doesn't he? Yeah. But that's, again, this is where you want to, I'm going to turn it right back up so I can show you. Do not do this part right here because this will be that pale wisteria light purple color. So you're only doing the top part of his nose and only down to here. See where that little line is? So I have to remind myself, I have to look at the one I've already painted and remind myself, don't go there. The first time I painted this, I was having to figure out what colors I wanted to do. So this is the first time I've done it. Now, you see this dark line there? You can go right over that. That'll show up under your paint once the paint dries. Let's go. Pull up and away. Actually, I think we have somebody painting today whose last name is Fox. I thought that was really cool that somebody whose name was Fox was actually going to paint a fox, which is wonderful. My last name is Evans, and there's really not anything you can paint that's an Evans. Maybe a great big E, but now before I got married, my name was Jewel, so we could paint a big fancy jewel for that. Now again, if you don't like painting that area with your big brush, save that little nose area for your little brush. I'm going to save these little bits up here at the top for my little brush. And I've got a little too much paint on that brush. I don't want to make great big clumps. So I'm going right up to my edge and pulling away. All right, I am ready for my small brush. If you're still working with your big brush, you work away. And I'm going to switch, always drying off that brush. You'll know when you haven't dried it off when all of a sudden the paint seems really runny. And that means you've got too much water on it. And again, if you look at it afterwards and go, that's not, I've got some little white bits there. I'm not covering that well enough. That's okay. You go back and add more paint when we're all done. Because everybody will have different spots they want to fix up. So. I'm finding myself bending my neck in a really weird way to get to all this, so I have to sit up and have better posture while I'm painting. All right, I'm going to get into that little tiny spot. All right, I think I've got, oh, there's a little spot there. Well, I may touch that up later. Right there. All right, now I'm going to go back to my other bits where I didn't get painted yet because my brush was too big. And remember, keep that wrist braced on your canvas or on the table. I'm going to go up here and get that little tiny pointy bit right there. Now I need to get in here, and this is uncomfortable for me. So again, I'm going to switch it around and figure out what angle can I paint at where it feels natural to my hand. If you feel like you're doing this, it's time to turn. And I'll have to tell you guys, I am not a professionally trained painter. I was not an art teacher. In fact, I've never been a teacher at all, except at cut and paste. My college degree was in marine biology. So you can see that's not very useful for painting canvases. But I've always been a crafter. My kids will tell you that. I always crafted with them when they were little. And I love doing this. All right, I am done with that lilac color. I do see some little spots where I think afterwards I'm going to go back and touch up. But I'll let you guys catch up a little bit if you need to. In fact, I think right now I'm going to do a little blow drying, because as I'm resting my hand on the canvas, sometimes I'm resting it on wet paint and I'm starting to get paint on myself. So I'm going to do it over here so I don't blast it in your ears. You've got a blow dryer and a mom handy or a dad handy or a grandma or a big brother or sister, you can do a little drying too. He's really starting to look like a fox there. It's always fun when you get to the end though, when you start doing the lines with the little marker and you add the little smile. That just makes it, it just adds the accents. Now, I'm done with that color, so I'm closing it up. Now remember, you may have the big pots. Also remember, don't throw your paint away. This could be great to do something else. Maybe you've got another canvas and you just want to free paint something. Or maybe you've brought home a kit from Cut and Paste and you'd like to paint that. I'm sure there are things around the house that your mom might be able to find. Old canvases, scraps of wood, things like that. So save this paint and use it to make something else that's fabulous and creative. The next color I'm moving on to is color 5. This is our last light color. I'm going to show you the difference here. Again, we were using lilac, which is this sort of pinky purple, and we're now moving to wisteria. Why is it all the purples are named after flowers, except the dark purple, which was called eggplant. That's not a flower. And I really don't like eggplant. But this is this is wisteria that we're moving on to, and it should be marked number 5. Or if you're using the coral colors, it'll be that pale peach color that's in yours there. And for Katura's friends, it'll be the very palest purple. It'll be the only purple you have left, let's put it that way. All right, and I'm going to put a dab of this paint in each of the spots that we're painting. We're going to be doing a little on the tail, a little on his chest. I always think foxes have fuzzy little chests. We're going to be doing it on this chin piece and this chin piece over here. Now we're not going to be doing it on this little triangle. That's his nose, but if you get a little paint over that, don't worry, because that is going to be black, and you know black covers everything. So if and when you're ready, you just start painting away.
And as always, let us know if you need help or if you're running behind, but so far it seems like nobody's saying so we're just moving on. But just ask questions, let us know if you need help.
Goodness, I know we're coming up on an hour. Don't worry, guys. We are getting very close to the end. I won't be keeping you here for 2 hours, I promise. And thank you for hanging out with me today.
And if for any reason you have to run early, maybe you have class at 4, just, message us on Facebook and we can remind you of the final product. But There should be a picture posted, I believe, so you can always look at that and
Yes.
see what spots remain.
Well, and as soon as I finish filming this, I'll push the button that says share, and that will put it up permanently on Facebook, so you can always scroll down and find it. But I'm also going to put it on our YouTube channel because I think that's easier to find. You know, if time goes by, maybe you didn't get time to paint this today, or someone else who just popped in and doesn't have a traced canvas and says, but I wanted to paint that. Don't worry, you'll be able to find it and watch it on YouTube, which will be great because you can pause it, you can fast forward it, you can do any of that. So, but again, remember, paint your wide open spaces first, and then you can leave the other bits for using your tiny brush. I'm going to do that technique we keep doing of the go up to the line and pull it away. And you can take it pretty close up here to the point, but then you're probably going to want to stop so that you can get in there with the pointy brush. All right, I think I've got about as much of that tail as I can, and I want to get the rest. Oh, no, I think I can get these right here. Nope. See, I'm doing that thing where I have to turn my hand really weird, and that's a sign that I need to turn my canvas and go this way. Yeah, it fills in much better when I do that. And you see, I'm covering up my lines. Now, your lines won't show up as much as mine because remember, I had to go over mine with a blue marker so you could see them. I'm going to have to remember that for the next couple of canvases. And if you're joining us next week for the turtle canvas, oh my goodness, that one is just so much fun. I love that turtle canvas. Now this canvas I designed, but the next few are designed by a young man named Henry Dennison who works for us. And I was trying to figure out what we were going to do. And I said, oh, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that. And Henry says, well, I'll draw that. And he picks up a pencil, and 10 minutes later, he had 3 designs for me. And believe me, I cannot do that. But boy, Henry sure can. And so I was really excited to get to use his designs. Now, I am not very good at sketching or drawing. I tend to draw stick figures. I can't draw very well. I'm very jealous of people who can draw. But you know, if you can draw, you could draw your own designs on a canvas. And you could pick some up at, I think Michael's is doing curbside delivery. You can also get them ordered. So if you ever want to design your own canvas, you could do that and then use these paints. If we have some left over, you could use paints to do those designs. Okay, gonna have to turn again. I find I need to pull toward myself. So I need to have my canvas at such an angle that when I'm holding the brush, I'm pulling toward myself. But I'm getting too close to the edge there. I'm gonna go a little sideways like that. And we're gonna make it brighter and bolder with our black pen in a little bit. All right. Oh, I still got to get that little face up there. Let's see what angle I need to do that. I need to be this way. Oh, I got just a little too much paint again. So you need to keep brushing it out. I think, oops, Q-tip time. Perfect. All right. Oh, and I don't know if you can see this, but I've left some little clumps of paint there from when I was pulling away, and I'm just going to spread that out. Make that look nice. All right. I think I'm to the point where I need to switch to my small brush. Again, you switch when you need to, not when Miss Laurie needs to. Because like I said, I have taught about a dozen or maybe even 20 of these canvas painting classes, and I've painted an awful lot of the samples. So I kind of learned from my own mistakes. I am a firm believer that you learn most from when you make mistakes. I see it all the time in the shop. Mom and Dad may tell someone, no, 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 you need to do it this way. And really, kids, none of us learn from what other people tell us not to do. I think we learn best when we make the mistake. Whoops, like that. I think we learn best when we make the mistake. And then we're like, whoa, I don't want to do that again. Remember that we are being kind to ourselves today. We always talk about being kind to others, but we're being kind to ourselves today too. If this is our first canvas painting ever, then we're going to be proud of what we did, even if it doesn't look like a fox.
It can be abstract art.
It could be abstract art. I feel firmly that people need to be proud if they made a good effort. Now, if you just slopped your way through here and didn't pay attention to anything, and then maybe you won't be as proud. However, if you had fun, then you know what? That's what we're here for. We're having fun today. We are not doing a painting in order to get it into the National Gallery of Art. We are not going to be graded on this ever. No one will ever give us a grade. Isn't that wonderful? Doing something fun like this, and nobody is going to tell us that we did A or B or C, or that we did a great job or a terrible job. We just did a job. My goodness, I've got all my color on now. What do we think? Is he starting to look like a really cute fox? I will tell you,
eyes.
He's going to get so much cuter when he gets his eyes on.
Eyes will help.
Oh, be careful. Don't do like Miss Laurie and knock your elbow into the paintbrushes and knock them out of the paint. Now, I feel that color number 3, which was the second purple that we used, remember, not the, oops, I'm going to close this one up again, not the darkest purple or the darkest coral, but the second one. That's what we did. Remember, that's that one color we used only in the ears, and that is very streaky to me. So it should be good and dry by now, because you know we've been painting forever on the other colors. So I'm going to give him, oh, a little too much paint on my brush. I'm going to give him a little second coat. Yes, I think that looks so much better. And you don't have to necessarily get right up to the edges on that second coat. You don't have to be quite as careful. You can just kind of spread it out. There we go. Now, I'm not going to do any other second coats right now. I'm going to leave that up to you, because everybody's going to have a different amount of coverage on that. And I think you listening to me, you're probably getting tired of listening to me. So, like, I've got some little spots here that I'd like to touch up, but I think we just wait. I think we move on, and then when you get to the end of this painting, if you want to stop, take a break, run around, shake out your shoulders, and then you can come back and say, I do think I missed a little spot here or a little spot there, and that's when you can go fix it up. So, our next color is going to be, we're going to do our next color with the pointy brush, and it's going to be this very last color that you've got, the only color you haven't used yet, and it's kind of a blue color, sort of almost a turquoise color. I think it's actually called deep turquoise. So that's the last one, and this one you're going to kind of freeform, okay? You're going to paint grass, and I like to paint grass with just the tip of my little pointy brush. See, I've just got a little bit here. Can you see it up against the purple? And I like to make check marks. Check marks, check mark. Oh, there's some grass. There's a little more grass. And I can do a little clump of grass right about here and here. And maybe a little more over here and here.
This just gives us texture and a multicolored look to the grass, because I know if you look out at your yard, I'm sure it's not all exactly one shade of green. So just kind of.
And I know it's blue, but hey, we live in the bluegrass state, right?
That's true.
Also, this is sort of a fantasy fox. He's not a very serious fox. And if you want him to be sitting in the grass, you could do a little check mark that goes right over the touch of his tail like that, right there. All right. See if everybody likes these colors. So I've got a little grass now on there, and that's all you need that blue for. Now, here's where you get to make a choice. You may not have gotten to make a choice before. I have two colors that I think would look good for his eyes. I did the eyes with this same bluegrass green that we did the original grass with. I did on the grass and made his eyes green. So you could use color number 1, the bluegrass green, or you could use color number 6, which is the deep turquoise. Because I did the bluegrass green before, I might switch and do the blue this time. So you choose either the dark green color, the greeny blue here, or this bluish color in the end. And I know most eyes are, we're doing our eyes a little bit differently than some animals have. We're gonna make this be the colored part of his eye. And you're using your tiny brush, and you're getting right up into those edges. See how I used the point down into the pointed edges, and then I kind of swirl it around. Now, if you're using the bluegrass green, you will see that it covers a lot better than this blue. It'll get darker. Are we getting close enough there, Melissa? Can
Yes,
you
I
see
just
it?
got us a little closer.
Thank you. Thank you. And you all, I told some people when they picked up their canvases, I am very good about listening to constructive criticism. Do you know what that means? Constructive criticism is when someone says, do you know, I think it might be better if you tried this. That's different than someone saying, you did a terrible job. That's just plain criticism. Constructive criticism is when people give you advice about how to do something better. And I'm very open to you guys telling me how I could do some things better, all right? Because, like I said, I've never taught this. And we are getting very close to the end, guys. I promise we're going to be finished really quickly. So if you're getting tired and need a snack, that's okay. Once you get your eyes painted in either your dark green or your dark blue, you can see what mine looked like. And remember, we're going to outline with the black, so you don't have to worry about that there. Now, we're going to paint the center of the eye with the black. Now, you have a separate tub with black paint in it. You could use the marker if you wanted to instead of the black paint, if you felt more comfortable doing that. Now, paint the whole eye. Cover up the little circle where the white is. We're going to do the white on top using a different technique. So, again, I think it's pointy brush time because this is so small. Open up your black paint. You are going to keep your black and white paint. For those of you doing all 4 canvases, you're going to keep your black and white paint for the whole time. So we're just going to paint straight down, and don't worry about not being able to see where that little circle was, because you're going to do a different technique to make a perfect circle for the white. Whoops, I have got to turn my canvas. That was a very unnatural way to hold my brush. Now, if your black circle isn't perfect, don't worry. Remember, we're going back around afterwards with a black marker that will outline things and make it better. And again, if you feel like you just don't have control with that brush, you could always use just the black marker to fill in. And then his teeny tiny nose. Okay. Oh, I almost put him black into black paint. We didn't need that. There he is. I'm going to let you guys catch up a little bit.
Post a comment if you guys have any questions or if you have anything you're struggling with and you want us to go over again.
Now I'm going to do a quick blow dry here. I would like to get those eyes dry before I put the white paint on. So pardon me 1 minute. This paint dries pretty quick on a canvas because the canvases soak it up. Sometimes when you use like the wood in the shop, you'll find it doesn't dry quite as quickly. Now, for the white dot in the middle, I'm going to use my middle brush, but I'm not using the brush. Now, if you've been to cut and paste more than once, I'm sure you've run into this technique before. If you've done our summer camps, if you've come to anything else like that, you've probably seen it. We're going to use the white. We're going to take the wrong end of our paintbrush and just dip it straight down. Okay, it doesn't matter how much paint is on it, you just go straight down into that white like this. And then you just pick where you want it. I'm going to kind of go halfway down, but on this right-hand side of his eye, and just press the white right there. Now, don't do the other eye yet. Go back and reload because you want the dots to be about the same size. And I'm going to go right about there too. And there, I have got a pretty white dot in the middle of the eye. See how well we did that? Now, dots take a lot longer to dry than anything else. So we need to be careful about these dots before we go on and do things. So I'm going to let them dry for a little bit. I'm going to close up my white paint. You guys, you may not want to put all your paint away if like you need to go back. Like I have some little white spots there. Make sure you get the right color and you're going to go back and fix those up. But otherwise I'm going to move some of this out of the way and I'm going to show you how to use your marker, okay? These are very fine point markers, and I just discovered them. I needed to find a place where I could get a whole lot of paintbrushes at one time, and I found them on Amazon, and they were wonderful. They're called Niutop, N-I-U-T-O-P. But first you do is you shake it up. You hear that little shaky sound inside. Never, never, never shake a brush like this with the lid off because you never know where the black ink is going to go, and I will tell you it will always hit the person wearing the nicest outfit. So shake it up and then you're going to open it up. The tip of yours, unless you've already woken it up, the tip of yours will be white. That means he's asleep. He doesn't have any ink in him. So you take your paper towel and you press down. Melissa, can they see me? I'm down here?
Yeah,
okay.
you're good.
Press down like this and count to, I don't know, oops. I'm going to have to stop pressing down because mine's already woken up. But you're going to press it down and count to maybe 15 or 20. Once you start seeing ink showing up on your paper towel, you have woken your marker up, okay? So that means he's ready to do our other work. Now I'm going to have to blow dry real quickly. All right. Now, at this point, we could go around and trace all of the lines that you see. If you are tired, if you want to around, you don't really have to sit here and watch me draw all the lines. You can go off and do your own thing and come back and draw your lines later. If you'd like to wait until your paint is super duper dry, you can do that too. But let me show you a couple of them that you might miss if you don't notice. Remember we did we painted over this little mark here. And look how happy he looks now that we add that little line. I really like that. But then we can start outlining other pieces of him. Wherever you see these lines, go right on the edge. Now the same thing goes. Keep your hand braced. Now if you did not have time, and here you may want to outline his nose, get it a little more careful. If you didn't have your blow dryer ready, or if it's not dry enough, you're going to stay away from these eyeballs for a while, okay? Because dots are thick, thick paint. And even though I've dried mine, I can tell there's still some paint under there that could pop if I press too hard on it. So, again, don't be hard on yourself, too. If you go a little outside the lines, don't worry about it. This is your first time. If you want your line a little thicker, you can go back over it. If you're like, I don't want lines, I love the way it is now, then don't draw lines. This is your canvas. Also, this is paint in these markers, so it will take a second to dry. So you may not want to like rub your hand right on top of it really quickly. So you may want to avoid your hand down. This is really hard to do while it's up on an easel. That's why you guys don't have easels. But again, it's super important to keep rotating so that your hand is working in a direction that feels natural, feels comfortable. If you feel like you're doing something in an angle that doesn't feel natural, then don't do it. So how did we do, guys? You love your fox? Are you happy with the way this turned out? Now, if you run across a spot that just feels weird, you know, it may be that the paint is still too thick and you may want to wait a while. Like I said, you can wait and do all these lines much later if you want to. You don't have to do them all right away. Now, this little part here, which was like the top knot on his hair, that line kind of went down into the pink like that, so. Y'all have no idea how hard this is. Because I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to do it perfectly because, you know, I'm supposed to be demonstrating to you. I think it looks really good to do an outline on these eyes. I think that just really adds a nice touch. However, if your eyeball dots, those little white dots, if they're still wet, you may want to stay away from those. You know, you could go eat some dinner and come back and work on them then, if you want to. I really like these pens. Now, if you ever feel like the pen is getting some paint on it and it's not coming out, go over here and press down on your paper towel. Never push down hard so that the tip goes in on your canvas, because that'll make a, what do we call those? That'll make a splurt. And you don't want to splurt. But see how now all of a sudden my color's coming out a little better. Sorry, I keep jumping all over the place here, guys. But you can just get a good feel for how this is going to look. And I hope you love this box. Get your parents, see if they've got some of those command hooks. Those are great for hanging canvases. And you can put those up in your bedroom, and you could rotate these around if you want, you know, change them up. Melissa, am I still lined up where they can see?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You're good.
I've got to quit trying to do a lot from one angle, because then I find myself, again, if your hand feels uncomfortable making the drawing, you need to move your canvas. Basically, guys, you are just outlining everything. Everywhere there was a line, I think this one needs to be a little darker. Everywhere we had a line, you need to put a line. So come on down here. Now, I'm not going to slow down and wait for you all, because I know you don't need me to sit here and show you the lines. You're perfectly capable of doing that. Now, think about down here. Do you want to, you may want, as your line comes down, see where I did my grass? I may skip over the grass like that. What do you think? That makes it look like the grass is in front of him. There we go. And I've got to turn him one more time. Make sure I'm not. That's a big long line, isn't it? There we go. All right. Now, I am done with this with you. Now, remember that you'll want to put your initials on it somewhere, or maybe your name. You can either do it somewhere on the front if you want, or you can flip it over on the back. If you do it on the back, don't do it on this part because it might show through, but you could write your name and absolutely put the date somewhere. And then you'll know exactly when you made it, and you can look back on it when you're older, and I think that's really kind of fun. I think we've done just as good as our original, don't you? Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you are coming next week, next Thursday to paint with me, this is what we'll be painting. I know he looks a little complicated. He's really not. We've done some special treatments on this one to make it more interesting. If you saw the toothpicks that were in your kit, that's one we're going to be using for that. If you have not signed up for the turtle one and you want to, you can always add that. Moms, if you go on and register for another class, you don't have to buy another set of brushes. You guys will just keep your brushes. Now, talking about brushes, I asked you to put all your paint away and make sure that that was saved so that you could use it again. But you'll want to like pat your brush gently on the bottom and then get it good and cleaned, super well cleaned on your paper towel. If you still see color coming off, you need to get it wet again and keep doing like this. Then you're going to want to set your brushes somewhere where they can dry, because we are using these same brushes next week. Remember, get them good and cleaned and they'll all be ready. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. This was really fun. I'm looking forward to doing it with you next Thursday. And for the rest of April, we'll be doing this every Thursday. I hope it worked out well for you. If you want to, you can always put your pictures up on Facebook. You could put them on our Facebook page. You can tag Cut and Paste Craft Studio in your posts, and we'll get to see them. And I am really looking forward to see what you guys created. Thanks so much, and I'm going to say bye now.
If I figure out how